Fall camp starts on Monday, and what do you know? We get to talk about our good friend Gus Malzahn because he is in the news once again in regards to UCF. What did he say? And what are our thoughts on it? Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 201. Nothing special about this one. Same old show that you get, just a little updated. With me, as always, Nick Geddes. Nick, we're recording this late on Thursday night, and you asked me the topic, and originally the topic was fall camp starts Monday. And, what are we anticipating? Has our expectations been changed? That was going to be the topic of today's show. And I'm sorry to those of you who are now disappointed and would rather us talk about that. But today, the Gus Malzahn, Mike Bianchi, Gus Malzahn article kind of has taken UCF by storm. But how are you doing? And are you you were the one that said we're talking Gus. So if you want to blame anybody, blame Nick. But how you doing?
Okay. I mean, hello to you too. I mean, you were the one who
I was all on board for it.
You were the one who sent me the column originally, and I was like, I mean, listen, it's still the off season. We still have a little bit to go until the season starts. It's not exactly like there's a million topics to dive into at the moment. We've previewed this team to death throughout the off season. We're going to continue to do it in future episodes once we get back to practice and taking a look at the conference and whatnot. So I guess that's a sneak peek for what's coming up, I guess. But no, I think Gus was in the news for this column and some other comments that he made as well this week at ACC Media Days, I believe. So I feel like it's topical.
It definitely is. And I'm totally fine with doing it because like you said, yes, fall camp starts on Monday. There's not really much. The thought process was more expectations. Has our expectations altered? And that's more so from the show that we've done, the people we've talked to. There's a heightening of expectations that, maybe changed our minds. But, and before we go into this Gus conversation, I just want to say thank you for all the support in the last week. We got a lot of love, a lot of people that are excited for what's to come. It truly does mean a lot. We've been doing this, like I said, for 3 years, now over 200 episodes. And all the love the UCF fans have continued to show us for an independent podcast that has not had any affiliation means a lot to us. So we truly, truly appreciate you guys for always supporting us. And with that being said, let's talk about Gus Malzahn. We on this podcast, let me be completely honest and upfront. If you have been a fan of Charge On for any period of time, but specifically in the last year, where the vitriol online has been or was to fire Gus Malzahn, this podcast, me specifically, I'm not going to speak for Nick, but this podcast has said that there's a positive and negative to firing Gus. At the time, it was the positive firing Gus is you could start fresh, you could start brand new, and you can have a clean slate and move forward. The negative is Gus Malzahn recruits at such a high level and has UCF to the public eye as legit and a legit potential contender, even though they never were in the Big 12, that you would basically be starting from square one and everybody would look at you differently, including recruits. We always understood that, and we always maybe were giving Gus a little bit of leeway because we understood what he did for the university and the football team. That doesn't mean that his coaching decisions were right, and we would go and say some of his coaching decisions were malpractice. But we understood the grand scheme and that it took time and that you just got into the Big 12, and we kind of made some excuses. Then we kind of said throughout the season that we were hearing certain things, that Gus Malzahn was potentially working on a buyout with the university, that we didn't see him coming back to UCF. But then, Nick, if you remember, it sounded like things changed. It sounded like kind of the last couple of weeks that Gus Malzahn was most likely going to be coming back. That's kind of what we were hearing, that it seems like Gus was going to come back. And then everything happened. He went to Florida State the night. It got kind of that UCF was just in a dumpster fire. And end of season, Gus Malzahn announced he's leaving, blah, 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 blah. You all know the story. And I'm going to preface this by saying this, Nick. I am still very appreciative, and UCF fans should be very appreciative that Gus Malzahn did what he did. Because if he didn't, UCF would have to pay the $12 million that they owed Gus. Gus was very gracious by going to Florida State the way he did. This article made me really not like Gus Malzahn for every reason that you hate coaches after they leave your program. Because I'm going to give my little spiel, Nick, and then I'm going to, give you the lob and the alley-oop. Nebraska fans came at Scott Frost not even a week and a half, 2 weeks ago because of his comments. And what were his comments? I didn't take the right job. There was a lot going on in that situation. It just wasn't the right job for me. Those are his comments. Not blaming the administration, not blaming the university, not blaming how bad and how poorly everything around Nebraska was in terms of facilities and infrastructure, which Matt Rule basically stuck up for and said it wasn't a good job when he came in, and that was nothing to do with Scott Frost. It was everything around it. So, okay. He didn't bash, and he didn't say anything like that. What did Gus Malzahn do? Well, Gus Malzahn basically said that UCF was trending in the wrong direction and that there was limited financial resources compared to other teams in the Big 12, which is true. They have a half share. They're getting 50% of the normal Big 12 annual revenue because they were one of the new teams coming in. And that basically, he said, and this is Malzahn getting quoted, it just wasn't working there. And it was pretty obvious. We only had half a share for 2 years. We were playing catch up. And in the future, I think they're going to be really good. But it was just time. And listen, there's also said in the article, and I'd implore all you guys to go check out the Mike Bianchi article about how he didn't want to get fired again, which I think we all said this is it. He didn't want to get fired again. And the Twitter mafia.
We should read that one. We should read that one.
Okay. I've been told by Mike Bianchi, this is Mike Bianchi, saying, I've been told by those inside the UCF program that Malzahn didn't want to go through the embarrassment of being fired again, like he was at Auburn, and was ultra sensitive to all the criticism he was getting on social media from UCF's Twitter mafia. So the pressure cooker we all are laughing at because he wanted to laugh at that, but clearly the Twitter mafia, it was a little too much for him. And listen, I think here's my issue with it, and here's I hate the fact that he blames the money. I hate the fact that he doesn't look back and say, I just wasn't right for the job. Because there's so many excuses that he's used, Nick. Every single year there's an excuse. There's a reason why he takes back play calls. There's a reason he gives it up. There's a reason he hires certain defensive coordinators. There's a reason he fires them. There's a certain reason why they lose games. There's a certain why. It's all everybody but him. You're going to blame money. You were paying KJ Jefferson. You chose to pay KJ Jefferson an insane amount of money to be your starting quarterback because you think that's Cam Newton 2.0. That was your decision. You chose to do that. You chose to run the offense that you ran, right? You chose to call certain plays that lost your team the game on multiple occasions, right? A lot of one-score games, some blowouts. That's the reason it didn't work. Don't blame UCF's half share in the Big 12 revenue as well. It was hard. You're falling behind. UCF was as talented or more talented than most Big 12 teams, as we all stated in the league last year. There's a reason that a lot of people picked UCF as a dark horse in the Big 12, because talent-wise, UCF was in the top tier of talent. But you and your coaching ability is what diminished the talent that you think you had. It wasn't the money, wasn't the half share. And if it was really that big of an issue for you, it's 2 years that you have to wait. 2. All you had to do was be better than you were in the first year. That's all you had to do. And then you'd still have your job, and then you'd have a full share, because that means so much more. And I'm sure it's a factor, Nick. I'm sure money is a factor. I'm not going to sit here and complain, and that, I get it. It is a factor. Your coaching decisions is the reason. And then you want to sit and say, I was going to retire. If you were so miserable, it seems like you were just so miserable at UCF. If you were so miserable, you should have left the year before. If you were contemplating it so much about going to the beach or being the head coach of a Power 4 college football program, you should have chosen the beach. But clearly, you didn't want that, because now you're at Florida State, you're an OC, you don't have any really much pressure on you, Because if you fail, you fail. Who cares? You made your money. But I just find now it's going to be this whole song of dance of the same excuses, Nick. I'm going on a real tangent. I apologize. It's going to be the same excuses of, remember, he keeps throwing in, oh, there's so much being a head coach in college football nowadays. There's so much you have to do. I just didn't want to do that. I just want to coach football. Guess what? You're going to get that opportunity because it was so much here and it wasn't working because of your half share. And now the pressure was too much and the Twitter mafia. That's frustrating because I like Gus. I think he made a great thing. He did a good thing for UCF. I don't hate him for doing it. I loved him for doing it because it gave UCF the opportunity to have a fresh start. I hate the blame game of money. I hate the blame game of all of that he's thrown out there. Called like it was, you failed because you weren't a good head coach and you made poor decisions that cost your team games.
Yeah, I mean, he's right about one thing here, and that's it was just time. Yeah, I think as you pointed out, we were, even last year through the struggles, about halfway through the season, we were still sort of on the Gus, supporter side and everything. Teetering. It was teetering, though, and then I think as the season sort of got into that last half of it, that last part of it, rather, I think we all sort of, at some point, were just like, can't defend it, can't see a path forward. They had lost so much steam on like the recruiting trail and everything, and they had blown all their opportunities. And every time that they got back to like the national spotlight, every time they had that moment, they failed, and they failed epically. In this past season, you look no further than the Colorado game. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like 10 months ago, I guess it was 10 months ago, UCF looked like it was like at that point where, okay, we're almost back. We're almost there. Okay, big game against Colorado, big noon kickoff, the atmosphere. We were there. It was a great day until the second quarter started, and from there on. And they never got it back, and all the quarterback switcheroos. And not even that. It's like he mentions, we were playing catch up and having the half revenue share. And like, I get all that. But let's not lose sight of the fact that we had 2 years in the American to go off of before they even got to the Big 12. And as I said, when we were talking about Gus when he left back in December, what did he accomplish at the end of the day in the American? What did he accomplish? They lost 9 games, no? Was it 9 games? In the first 2 years?
I put yes, but I think similar, close to that. 9 games. 9 games.
Yeah. I mean, and you want to look at those rosters of the teams they were playing, and you want to tell me that UCF wasn't more talented than those teams? UCF had no business losing 9 games in 2 years in the American. Sorry. Shouldn't have happened. But it happened. And how many times did we play the game of, I'm calling plays for the rest of my life, to, I'm not calling plays anymore. Darren Henshaw is going to call plays. And when we have one bad game, now I'm going to call plays. How many times did we go through that one?
Felt like 20.
How many different quarterbacks came through here during his time? And how many panned out? I know all the JRP truthers, and listen, based on what we saw last year, JRP's time here at UCF has aged a lot better. So I'll get off of that one. But I feel like, again, not to rehash everything, even though that's kind of what we're doing here, he came in and put all these crazy expectations upon this program, and that's fine. You want to have goals and everything, but when you do that, and you do that for a fan base that was not too far removed from having all these great moments and everything, it put sort of this feeling out there that there were going to be good days coming soon. And I feel like we just waited, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited, and it never happened. It never happened. And as I just said earlier, it got to a point where it felt like, yes, it was time. It was absolutely time. And was UCF going to fire him? Probably not, because they probably weren't going to be able to afford it, no? I think that was probably the whole thing. So yes, thank you for doing what he did and resigning, and UCF not having to pay him that money, and we're onward and upward and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I do get a kick out of that quote from Bianchi's column, where he said those inside the program that he didn't want to go through the embarrassment of being fired again. I get a kick out of that. I'm not going to lie.
But that's the thing. It's more funny because we knew it. Like we said, the minute you get fired again is the minute your career is done. Like, and that's why I don't buy the whole whatever he was saying of, oh, if it wasn't the Florida State job, I'd be in a beach. It's like, if that was the case, then you wouldn't, like, if you weren't caring and you're like, I'm just going to, it was either the Florida State OC job and I got offered that, or I was going to go to the beach, then why did you care? Why would you care if you're fired or not? It's like, why care about the embarrassment? At the end of the day, everybody knows that you can put out the song and dance of, I didn't want to be a head coach anymore. But you know, like, the university didn't want you, most likely. The fans definitely didn't want you. Everybody saw how UCF was. So it's just as bad, because you know nobody ever is going to view you as a head coach ever again. So, great, you didn't get fired. But the embarrassment is nobody views you as a head coach. Like, nobody. So, and again, Nick, it's all in the quote. The actual quote that he gave, it's very simple. You know what would happen if the quote was just, it just wasn't working there and it was pretty obvious? If that was the quote, we're not talking about it. UCF fans aren't talking about it, because that is the most obvious.
Nobody wants to hear the excuse of, well, we're playing catch up. I don't think anybody needed to hear that.
But that makes me feel like, legitimately, that makes me feel like, and obviously because, he took the job.
You're saying that, but like, again, now I'm just like remembering everything now, and it's like, but they were pumping out the best recruiting classes they have ever had. No, under Gus Malzahn, they were pumping them out year after the first 3 years or whatever, right? Like, they were bringing talent in, good talent, really good talent, actually. And they had talent on the roster, and they had some big hits in the transfer portal, right, that are now in the NFL, okay? Like, there was talent on this roster, okay, in spite of the fact that you didn't have the rev share or whatever. And, like, you were out recruiting a lot of other schools who were in your conference and everything. Like, and I think going into last year, you look at that roster, and the idea, if I go back and look at it too, that shouldn't have been a 4-8 team. Like, it just shouldn't have been. But it was a disaster of a year, and I just can't help but feel, Sean, because UCF is sitting in a place right now, as we've been saying all offseason, where they are starting from scratch. So at the end of the day, what was the Gus Malzahn era? What did it get us? Where did it get this program? They are starting from scratch. And they didn't have all this success leading up to it where it's like, okay, we have to rebuild now because now we have a new coach. Blah, blah. No, they have to do everything all over again. Like, again, did he leave this program in a better place than he found it? Yes or no? No. Okay.
No, the Gus Malzahn era will always be, to me, a bunch of missed opportunities.
Yes.
Like a chance to have the highest highs, but the missed opportunities will define his tenure. And again, it makes me really question if when it got announced that UCF was going to go to the Big 12, it now makes me really question, like, was he happy about that? Or was he like, dang, I really wish I could have just stayed in the American? Because I think you can't complain and moan about the rev share when, like, to your point, Nick, we know how much KJ Jefferson was making. Like, he was making a lot of money. UCF, they were able to keep RJ Harvey. RJ Harvey was getting poached by multiple schools, right? Kobe Hudson was getting poached by multiple schools. And then also, we were both at all the games, Nick. Lamar Brown, the number one player in this class that's happening right now, was on UCF's campus like twice. The number one player in the country, Landon Duckworth, was basically, by all accounts, going to be a UCF Knight. If you don't have money to work with, are these players even giving you the time of day? And again, UCF was churning out top 30 classes. And if not top 30, definitely top 35. So you can sit here and keep blaming the rev share.
And none of that talent, by the way, ever developed. We went through it last year. You could count on one hand how many of those players from those recruiting classes actually had a significant contribution to UCF during his tenure.
Now, to be fair, there are players that Gus recruited that are on the roster right now that I think have made significant, like, I think Braden Marshall is a name that he has proven. Now, granted, he had the injuries last year, a really good freshman year, had dealt with a lot of injuries last year, and I think he's poised for a really big year. Kylan Fox didn't really get opportunities last year, but I think he's going to this year, and I think he's going to take steps up. I think there's Gus players that I'm more confident in with this new staff than I ever was with Gus and that staff elevating them. Because I think, especially with the offense, you knew we could run the football. But if Gus signed a receiver, once they got into the Big 12, there was a feeling of like, how are you going to make this guy better? That's why Javon Boggs, like, we were so pumped about Javon Boggs. And I'm like, how is Gus going to elevate him? And now guess what? We'll see at Florida State.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when you think about it, like, was there a single, I already mentioned quarterback. There wasn't, like, I put the transfer portal in a separate category. I'm putting that to the side, okay? Not taking anything away from it, okay? Build your roster, whatever, but put that to the side. Was there a single quarterback that came through during Gus Malzahn's tenure that was developed?
JRP, he was, but I don't think that was. I don't think that was Gus. That was Darren Hinshaw. But
I'm still saying elevated. That's a transfer portal. I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, was there any quarterback that came through? We always went through it. We're like, okay, this is the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy. Never happened.
But Mikey,
and he was told to exit stage left.
Kick rocks. Yeah, kick rocks.
Was there a receiver who was recruited by Gus Malzahn that went on to make a valuable contribution to UCF?
Xavier Townsend.
Okay. Kind of. And he kicked
it didn't matter. He left because he saw the writing on the wall.
He left. And don't want to speculate, but maybe unhappy with his role, maybe, perhaps?
Oh, no, I'm saying that. No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay. So, this is an offensive guy, right?
He didn't recruit RJ Harvey. He didn't recruit. It was all transfer. No, it's all transfer guys.
So that's my problem. It was like there was no developing going on. So all these recruiting and everything that they did, it meant nothing. It meant nothing.
Yeah. And the Knights announced recently that they achieved a new fundraising record, $52.8 million in cash and commitments.
I'm sorry, say that again.
$52.8 million. Yeah, 52. UCF. Yeah. $52.8 million. But they were just lagging behind. UCF's just lagging behind. Which again, I'm not sitting here saying they're not. I'm aware UCF is definitely still on the lower end.
I don't want the message to get misconstrued here. I'm not saying that UCF wasn't fighting some challenges entering the Big 12. I'm not saying that whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that what they had, in my opinion, was better than 10 and, oh God, I got to do math. 10 and 15 or whatever it was over the last 2 years.
Again, very simple. You just keep it as everybody saw the writing on the wall. It is what it is. Nobody's talking about this. It's when you start blaming everybody else but yourself. You blame money, and I get it. Now you're at Florida State and you got a bunch of transfer players. Guess what? You have a whole new offense again, Gus. Every player on that Florida State offense is basically brand new. There's basically no returning starters. I think there might be one returning starter on the offense on Florida State right now. So you're going to be able to implement your offense with all these new players. And again,
maybe it'll be fast again.
You can hope.
I didn't even mention that. How the UCF offense got progressively slower and slower every game by game throughout his tenure.
So, I mean, that's my thing. And that's where it's not even a frustration at this point. It's more just like a move on. And I know Gus definitely doesn't want to talk about it. Like, let's be real here. He does not want to talk about UCF and his tenure here because he knows it was a dumpster fire. It's not like with Auburn where you can always kind of go back and look at the fond memories. Here,
I think Gus did really well at Auburn, personally. Without being an Auburn fan, I know how they have feelings about him and everything. I think he did well.
Yeah, I mean, comparatively,
all things considered.
I mean, here at UCF, he went, I think, 9-4 in his first season, beat Florida in a bowl game.
10-5 in the second season.
10-5 in the second.
6-7.
No, 9. He didn't win 10 games. 9-5. 9-5 in the second.
9-5, and then 6-7,
4-7, and then yeah. So I mean, let's be real here. He does not want to talk about his greatest achievement at UCF was going to an American championship game and losing in great fashion. Like that's his great. His greatest achievement was beating Florida in the bowl game in year one. Like that is the moment that Gus Malzahn will always have. Besides that, it was all dumpster fire. And recruiting classes being good. But that was it. So now it's like, yes. Is there going to be a little bit bigger of a dip in recruiting for the time being? Yes. But I think, hopefully, we can hope, the reset is going to help UCF and move UCF forward rather than staying in a mid to really below mid purgatory that they were kind of getting themselves into. And listen, I wish Gus the best. I hope he does well. I do. I hope he revitalizes his career and has happiness at Florida State. And I'm excited to watch Florida State games to see if the offense is just as bad. I mean, hopefully better.
Gus Malzahn and Tommy Castellanos are together, just like we all thought they would be, but not at the.
And Tommy can't learn to just not speak.
Not at the program that we thought it would be at, though.
No. And to be honest, to be fair, guys, I think here's what we all can say. And I know this might be crazy. I would much rather be UCF than Florida State right now. I would, because at least we have the reset. Florida State just got a buddy to run his run his new offense, a pure runner quarterback that you know is going to turn over the ball 10 plus times this year, a defense that's going to be really good. Florida State's defense is going to be good. But I think I'd rather be in UCF situation. Restart completely, see if this new regime works.
Depending on how it goes for them, they might be restarting too. After this.
Yeah, but we get the head start. Like Florida State got the old head coach, and UCF was able to restart because of that. So like I'm grateful to Mike Norvell. I am. And he's taken a lot of losses from UCF over the years. So he's just another win for us in that mark. All right. Nick, any final thoughts before we close this one out?
I want it to be on the record that this is the last time we will ever talk about this again. Like I feel horrible that we have rehashed all this, but I mean, it was in the news. I mean, it was in the news and we had to cover the news, but, shout out to Mike Bianchi for the great column. Of course, please go read it if you haven't.
A lot of people don't usually say that, but it was very enlightening.
Well, I will.
Yep. Yeah, I will echo what Nick is saying. We will not be talking about Gus Malzahn
from this point forward. This is the line. July 25th, 2025. This is it.
This was the last thumbnail I will have to make. I thought it was already the last one, but this will be the last thumbnail I have to make with Gus Malzahn and UCF gear. But yeah, that's going to do it for this week's episode of Charge. I got exciting stuff in the next couple weeks. Obviously, you know about some of them. Definitely next week's going to be a busy week for the channel. Just kind of pushing out the new show airing August 4th. So definitely be on the lookout. If you haven't become a member, become a member. We've got a lot of exciting content coming, like the full interviews from Meet the Knights. Those will be available for our members to get every single bit of content that you possibly can. So become a member and like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Guys, this has been Charge On. We will see you next week.